So for you, it's about maybe going after a larger customer, really looking for larger partnerships that will create multiple opportunities for the business.
Different industries are talking to the same customer just at a different point. And we always say everything starts with a move. So if there's anything that we can do to create that unique experience for a customer, then we're going to do it.
Chris, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Yeah. So you are the VP of Partnerships at All My Son's Moving and Storage. Now, typically for this podcast, we don't have your industry, but I was really intrigued by you personally, we've had a conversation in the past and I really enjoyed talking to you, but also your business and the way that you guys operate really is aligned with AWM. So I thought it'd be perfect to have you join us today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be on here and chat a little bit more on how we do things and then also just in general about the industry and what's going on out there.
That's great. So let's just start with some easy stuff here. So All My Sons, tell me a little bit about the company. How did it start? Where's it headquartered? Just a brief overview would be great.
Sure. So started about 32 years ago. Robert Peterson and his family started the business and then grew through kind of friends and family. They, starting different offices around the country, went quickly from 1 to 5 to 10 and then growing from there. And so over the last 32 years, we've grown from, single location to almost 100 locations now around the country. Our corporate headquarters is in Dallas, Carrollton, Texas. And that's where the majority of our operations team sits. And, that's how the sausage is made across the country too. So we've got amazing teams throughout the country. And then, kind of have the hub in Dallas to really, really drive things forward and keep things consistent across the board.
Yeah. And that's an important point. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But since I met you, I obviously pay more attention to the moving trucks that I see. And you are definitely here in Las Vegas.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we have an amazing team here. And those guys are crushing it. Their NPS scores, their quality of service, everything's through the roof. So
yeah. Well, I think the moving industry itself. I know we've talked a little bit in the past about some of the unscrupulous operators out there, and so one of the things that I think has been very important to your business as it is to mine is trust. Right, both of our industries really require that. It's an important part of what we do. What standards do you guys have in place to make sure that you maintain that level of trust with the customer?
Yeah, I think in the moving business, it's really important to know, everybody wants the cheapest price. But everybody wants the best service. So, how do you get both of those things? So, with us, we try to have that transparency in what we do from pricing, and then just letting them know what's going to happen before it happens. And it's the communication. So trust comes in a couple different ways in the moving industry. So you have, something you probably haven't done in 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years, right? So it's a new thing for a lot of people. So we just want to educate them as much as possible on the front end on what the process is going to look like, when we're going to show up, what it's going to be like, how to be prepared, and, give them tips and tricks along the way. So when it comes to moving day, it's this very smooth process and we're very communicative through the whole, from start to finish. And even afterwards, we want to make sure that experience went exactly how they wanted it to go. And we've got a team aligned with it. And I think that operations team and our one all over the country from the operators that are out there in the offices, but with our centralized operation, we really have a pulse on what's going on out on the streets at all times across the country. So
yeah, I mean, what you just described there is exactly what we talk about every day here at AWM. It's the communication, transparency, giving your customer options and making sure that they know the various services that you provide, whether it's a way that you move them versus a loan program. It all sort of ties in. One of the things that I know you and I talked about in a previous conversation was this sort of one quote problem out there. And that's one of the things that your industry battles, right? So if I'm a consumer, I call a moving company and they say, hey, it's going to cost $5,000. Meanwhile, I've got a 2-story house full of furniture and I'm moving myself to Pennsylvania, that you need to be very aware of that situation. And that might not be a realistic quote.
Yeah. And I would just say, be cautious. And when you're getting those quotes, if you're moving from, New York to Miami for $1,000, probably not going to work out the way you want it to work out. So it's, it's finding those companies that you can trust. There's reviews. They have some track record and history. Where, as a consumer, just more education, look that way and kind of, reach out and get a kind of baseline. And also important to educate yourself through that whole process. Like, what is this going to actually do? Am I going to move myself, or am I going to have somebody move? And there's cost differences in both of those, right? So you can do it cheaper, or you can, go down the line of just having a kind of white glove service and take you to your final destination.
Well, it's the old saying, get what you pay for,
Yeah,
right?
you get what you pay
And
for.
it does play in your business as well.
Yeah, but there are some unscrupulous folks out there, and I think, we try to do our best to just take care of customers if they do get in a situation like that, and if they need help the next day, we'll typically shuffle the deck and try to get them where they need to go if maybe somebody cancels or doesn't show up, or tries to change the quote on them a little bit.
So one of the things I'm curious about your industry, because obviously, just like I am at the mercy of the people here at AWM to represent the brand,
Yeah.
to represent me really at the end of the day. When you send somebody to somebody's home, now you're in Dallas, Texas, let's say at corporate headquarters, right? How do you know that the person that comes to my house in Las Vegas is going to deliver the service that really is your standard? And a lot of that really, I want to get into culture a little bit, but to me, this is where it starts. How do you get people on the ground that are actually there in the customers' homes to operate to your standards?
Yeah, I mean, there's one major difference is like, for us, everybody, is a W-2 employee. We don't bring in temporary labor or anything like that. So what we'll do is we'll bring them to Dallas or bring them to a few other locations where they'll have their training. If it's the crews, they're getting trained on site. And before they can even go out into a customer's house, they have to kind of pass that test. But throughout the whole process, like, people are understanding, like, it's customer first, treat them like family, and then make sure that they had a great experience at the end of the job. So, from a training perspective, I think it's huge. We have an amazing training program corporate wide. And then we also incentivize our team appropriately for taking care of that customer with added bonuses and things like that along the way, just because we want them to go over the top, from an experience perspective. Because again, you're not moving every year. Well, some people are, but you're not moving every year. So you want that experience to be a great one, because the adage is like, you do a good job for one person, they're going to tell 3 people. You do a bad job, they're going to tell 10 people or more.
Yeah.
Right. So in the internet's kind of caused that to be a little bit more ripple effect wise, but
Sure.
and so we just stay on top of that too. So like from a customer service perspective, I mean, we're monitoring all of that to ensure that we stay ahead. If something happens, we want to react very quickly and take care of that problem. It's fast. I mean, we're in the moving industry. Things are going to happen, but we do everything we can to prevent those things from happening on a claim,
Yeah.
things like that. Want to make sure the customer's happy.
I think what's interesting is, at least from my perspective, was that most moving companies are local, right? It's a local company owned by some individual that lives in that city. But you guys have managed to take that concept and really, explode it across many, many markets. Let's talk a little bit about expansion. How do you maintain that level of service? And I know you mentioned training, which is huge, but now you start to scale a business, you start to grow. I know the challenge of maintaining culture, maintaining quality and certain standards as you grow and scale a business. How have you guys managed to do that?
Yeah, I think the important part when you said, like, people that have like the local businesses, they don't look at us as anything different, because the people who are taking care of your mom, your dad, your nephews, and your whole family, they're all local. So like their team here is local in Las Vegas. We're not bringing them somewhere else. So their kids are in your schools. They're part of your community. And I think where we see opportunity when if we're going into a new location, or maybe we're expanding a location more, like we just look at the culture of that office, we look at the leadership there, and then, how can we best serve the community? So, we're doing a lot of different things to involve the community. I know here locally in Las Vegas, they're doing a great job on our Move for Hunger program. So we're giving back to the community as much as we can. So, donating non-perishable goods, and that's been amazing. So, we're really trying to feed as many people as possible, and so that's a new program we rolled out this year. But I think everybody's getting behind it because they see the need locally as a community. So that local presence is really where we shine. We just want to make sure we're doing the best job possible for our cities, that we're in.
I love that, and that is so like right in line with the way I think about the business too. I tell people all the time, as we've grown, that if I don't have strong local leadership, I will not be successful in that market. And that's where it starts. You can do all the right things at the corporate level, but without that special local leadership, it won't
100%.
work.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
yeah.
Because that's it. That's your pulse in the industry and the business, and like that. If you don't have that local leadership, you're in a spot where you need to make adjustments and figure that out quickly.
Yeah. Another thing that's been important to me, and when you talk about attracting people and people that are a fit for your culture, and you guys are still, and it's sort of in the name too, but I mean, I think you look at yourself as a family business. And I know AWM does. That's the way. And I think that, I want people to feel like we're not there's no corporate bureaucracy here at AWM. You have direct access to leadership. If you have a problem, it's my problem, right? We want that family culture. How do you guys maintain that at All My Sons?
It's still the family business that was started 32 years ago. I'm a new entry, as of a year plus ago, but at the same time, like you can feel it when you walk in the doors. Everybody knows everybody. They know I would say it's more of a, if you think like a football team or something where everybody has a position to play, right? So, the from the family side of the business, Robert, who started the business, still CEO, and you hear him, he's there, but it's a fantastic organization where everybody really wants to be succeeding together. It's not a dog bowl where you're, one person's the best in the business or anything like that. They're bringing everybody up when they see opportunities to improve, and they'll let you know. They'll help you, and it's like that's where I think some companies would just take that as if somebody's struggling, they see those numbers and it's like, you don't need them. It's like, what can we do to make you better? How can we grow you? And I think what's really important is, that kind of family culture. When somebody starts on the truck, loading a job, and there's opportunity for growth everywhere. As we expand, as new roles open up, that's where I think people can come in and just feel that they have an opportunity to grow and be successful in their career versus I just have a job, right? So, and you feel that from top to bottom, like when people get excited about coming to work every day, it's a tough business. I've moved myself several times and I will never do that again, especially being where I'm at
I'm with
now.
you, man. No,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
don't want to do it. I don't want to slip a disc or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the opportunities that people have, you see a lot of the people on the leadership team, they started as a driver, they started in sales, and it's everywhere throughout the business.
So what you guys have done is you've built a business really that is a home for people, a place that they can grow professionally, their families can continue to move forward economically. I love that. One of my favorite things to do is to promote from within. If I can take a processor and turn that processor into an underwriter, and all of that changes their economic outlook and changes what how their family lives day to day. That's beautiful. And I like what you said about the coaching part, because I agree. Um, you know, n- People don't show up knowing their job perfectly, right? There's a what you have to decide on is, am I going to invest in people? That's really what it boils down to. And ultimately, certainly there's there's exceptions to that. There's some people maybe just are not a fit for an industry or a culture, and you make that decision. But ultimately, I think everybody deserves a fair chance and the ability to be coached to get to where you as a leader want them to be.
Exactly. I mean, but that's where you see, like, it's kind of like an organic, it just grows itself. Like, if you're doing that everywhere, you're giving opportunity for everyone to grow. So they're going to be putting in the extra, 20, 30% and making sure that that customer's happy. At the end of the day, it's all about the customer. So whatever we're doing to create the culture and the kind of the energy, it's all going to the customer. And so, we need those positive experiences to continue that. And so we'll just keep investing in people and keep growing.
That's wonderful. Let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about your role as VP of Partnerships. Obviously, it's an important role within the organization. You mentioned you've been there now in this position about a year. Tell us a little bit about the role. What it involves for you day to day, and maybe a little bit about how you see the future and how your role is going to really impact the business itself.
Yeah, so I joined about a year ago. Prior to that, I was in a few AI companies, were home service-based businesses where I really understood probably how the consumer reacts to different contractors, services that would come into a house. So with the opportunity to come into All My Sons, I can kind of take that, from what I've seen other industries do, and then mold it into kind of where we have the biggest need. So as the head of partnerships for the business, I'm looking at, our sports teams. We're the official sponsor of 4 NFL teams.
Wow.
And that's really exciting. And we get a lot of fans that, see our brand and interact with it. And it's a really a fun part of the job. And then there's the corporate side. So historically, we would go into, do a job, we get paid, customers happy, and we go on to the next one, but that one job could turn into 20 jobs. So, or 50 or 100 or 1,000. So, my role is really to find those opportunities to grow and build the relationships needed to sustain a partnership that, is healthy on both sides, where both parties are getting something out of it. And so I'll, kind of conversations, revolve around in the mortgage side. We're all dealing with the same customer. So how do we make that customer experience even better? And just, you have your team that's fantastic, and then we have ours. Like, let's, find ways to introduce that and just make the whole moving process easier, because it's hard, right? So, you're taking somebody out of a house they've been in for 15, 20 years and taking them somewhere else. There's challenges there, and we just want to make it as easy as possible. So excited about the partnership role, what opportunities are going to come ahead. And
so for you, it's about maybe going after a larger customer as opposed to just the single, transactional move that you do, but really looking for larger partnerships that will create multiple opportunities for the business.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different industries are talking to the same customer, just at a different point. And we always say everything starts with a move. So if there's anything that we can do to create that unique experience for a customer, then we're going to do it, and we're going to figure out a way to help them out. So if we can build those relationships, it's great for both sides, and we're just going to keep doing that and growing it. So I've got a great team of folks, and it's easier when the brand speaks for itself on the quality and consistency that we put out there every day. So the scale is also a little bit different as well. So on the partnership side, there's not many companies that are wholly owned that have a nationwide presence that can offer a similar experience every single time you go in. If you go to a Ruth's Chris and have a steak in Indianapolis, and you go into Dallas, it's going to taste pretty much the same, and it's really good. So, that's we just want to repeat that experience. But again, on the scale side, very hard to get to the size we're at, and it's not easy to stay there. Right. So we just want to offer really good experiences across the country. So that way, you're not dealing one person in Dallas, one person in Kansas City. You get to deal with the same company across the board.
Is there a certain type of a partnership that you're looking for, and what makes what drives that decision for you guys in terms of choosing that next partnership?
Sure. Partnerships for us is, how, like, it could be a nonprofit that we're helping out during the Christmas time and holiday season where they need to help delivering food. That's not like something we're giving back to the communities that we operate in, and that would be considered a great partnership for us, right? And then, if anything that revolves around the move, you have real estate, mortgage, title, there's a lot of opportunities there. And then just finding ways for, people to know we'll help just about anywhere. I think people see a moving company are like, well, they're going to move all my stuff. Well, not necessarily. We could show up to your house. We could load your rental truck. You have a Penske truck out there. We could help you load that. And then when you get to your destination, we can help you unload it. And we'll do the same experience that you would get with us moving it ourselves. So we can come into your house. We can pack your house. We'll do just about anything to help you along the way. And it's not just the full move, right? So I think people have that kind of shtick on whether if you just want to move everything, and we'll help in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Have you ever had a partnership that you said no to, where maybe they weren't the type of company that you wanted to be aligned with?
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
I don't need names, but
no, but I think everything has to align. It has to work on both sides, and I think that's what make good relationships. It's everybody's got to win, and that drives it forward. But we look at everything really really thoroughly and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the end user.
But one of the things that's interesting to me is and again, kind of, I'm reaching back to conversations that we've had in the past is, I think the comment you made was there's really no move that's too small. And you just touched on it here, where typically you think of a larger national organization where you're going to say that job's too small for us. We're not getting involved. But you guys have made the decision to say that there is no such thing for us. If grandma needs help moving her, a dresser up the stairs, I think you guys would probably send somebody to do that.
Yeah, we do it, and it's we'll help them move something from the third floor to the second floor, or because things are heavy, they don't want to break it, they don't want to damage it's the same process we would take putting it in our truck. We'll help them bring it down the stairs or reorganize a house if you're reflooring it, whatever. But yeah, if it's a small move out of a storage unit, we'll be there. If it's a $7 million house and a gated community, we'll be there too. So it's like
great.
We'll help any way.
I'm going to keep that in mind, because I have a 2-story, and I know there's some things that I don't want to move up or down again ever. So let's talk a little bit about trends. We spoke in my office a little bit earlier about some things that you're seeing, which are interesting. I think in general, the housing market is a tougher market now. We're seeing whether it's resale, whether it's new home construction, the consumer's nervous about the economy, about maybe their job, the tariffs and cost of milk and all the things that we know. How do you see all that playing out today in your business? What trends are you seeing?
So, I think everybody sees it right now with you could say it's interest rates, but it's a lot of different factors, keeping people where they're at, or, limiting the movement that we saw during COVID. I mean, that was everybody was moving then. And so, I think people are just kind of waiting to see what happens. But at the same time, like when they do move, they're very intentional about where they're going. And, they're, it's not, they're just going into a new city or moving to an apartment. Like, they have a clear path on where they're going. That kind of paints a picture a little bit. I just don't think it's where they just want to move to upgrade their house. Like it's very much, I'm moving for work, moving for life, experiences or life changes. Downsizing, we're seeing a lot of that. We have kind of like the population kind of going from the boomer side to downsizing their home, going somewhere else, maybe moving somewhere warmer.
Interesting. So very intentional moves, though.
Yeah,
is really
I
what you're saying.
would say intentional. Yeah.
So there are always cycles in a housing market where people they just want to move up, right? They've got a 3-bedroom and a 2-bath, and they want the 4 and the 3, and then they want the swimming pool in the back. So you get a lot of that, and even within a city, we saw a lot of that here in Las Vegas. But now it seems like, and you're supporting this, is like I've got a 2.5% interest rate on my first mortgage. I don't want to disturb that. The only reason I'm leaving is because I absolutely have to, right? Or like you said, maybe I'm downsizing or maybe I need to move for a job, right? That's really the driving force behind
I
it.
would say that's a part of it. And people are going to move regardless. Maybe they need to upgrade their house, or if they're moving, to a different area of town, or job situation locally. So there's still a lot of movement happening. It's not the same movement we saw a few years ago. So really, and I think now more than ever, homeowners are very much more educated than they were before. Uh, uh, I think people take a lot of time and take a lot of pride in researching, what they're going to do next. So, it's our job to really educate those clients as they come to us, and just explain the process, because people haven't done it in a while. And so we just want to be as thorough in the front end, using different types of technology to really speed that process up, make the estimate more accurate, and then ultimately, give them an option for a move, and take care of them.
Yeah. And you're seeing too more apartment to apartment moves, right? Where I imagine back just a few years ago, you mentioned the COVID era, a lot of home purchase activity. So you saw people going from maybe an apartment into a single family. You might not always know whether they own the home or they're renting it, but ultimately now you're seeing a little more kind of this apartment to apartment, rental to rental.
Well, and I think a lot of that is, different cities are really, expanding. So, if they're coming in, they might come in for a year, rent an apartment, and then they're gonna go somewhere else when they know where they want to live in a city. So that drives a lot of that. And then, a lot of the multifamily condos, and even on the builder side, trying to incentivize people to come into their property. So we're, trying to find different ways to help with those incentives to align with what a builder would want, or multifamily would want, or condo complex. So really just trying to work all three phases there.
Yeah. So what do you see as we wrap this up? What do you see for your business in the next 12 months, plus or minus, as far as technology is concerned? We talked a little bit about that in my office again. Obviously, AI is the hot topic in every single business. What do you see for your business in the next year or so as it relates to tech?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a incredible opportunity with AI. It's a big buzzword. Some people who, what I would say is, are not ready for that, and so we have to find ways to introduce that to customers where it's not gonna completely catch them off guard. So we test things, and we test it again and test it again, and when it's ready, we'll introduce that. But it's a very human touch business that we're in. So, the robot's not coming in the house and packing you up. But I'll assure you that, like, at some point, maybe that's way down the road.
Yeah, the Jetsons.
You said 2 years that it's going to be like, well, I can't even tell anymore with how fast things are going. But it's a human experience that we're going through. We want to make sure that whatever technology we do introduce through the business is intentional, and it's either going to make the experience better for the customer or faster, that allows them to either save money or have a better experience. So we really want to find those key things to just introduce them at the right time.
I mean, I think that's the perfect mindset, because your clientele, the demographic is
Across the board.
right. I mean, it's massive.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a part of our society that's not comfortable with certain technologies. They still want to pick up the phone and get somebody on the other end who can answer questions. And then there's some people who don't want to talk to anybody. So our problem to solve is, how do we interact with all of those people in a way that makes them comfortable, gets them to transact with us, and ultimately ends up with a quality experience.
100%.
Right? That's the challenge. But I think the great news is that those tools are out there. They're only going to get better, and us as business people need to decide how to deploy them.
Kind of hit it on the head. You have variety of different customers coming to you, introducing those things for somebody who doesn't want it, to give them the experience that they want. When you pick up the phone, talk to them. If someone doesn't want to talk to you, find a way to make sure that they can buy that way, because that's how they buy. And they're going to buy that way. We just want to make sure. And then after that, the experience has to be awesome. We have to do an amazing job for them, So we get those 5-star reviews, those great, customers, testimonials, and just, keep growing.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been great. I've really enjoyed getting to know about your business. As I thought, as I expected, the way we look at business, whether it's mortgage or moving, we think the same way, and I think that's part of the secret sauce of our businesses. And I just appreciate you giving me the time today.
Oh, thanks for having me in here. This is great.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All
Well,
right.
thank you.
Appreciate it, Chris.
All right.
All
All
right.
right. Good.